Whip 5 on yourself. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice but get on. Mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Love that about you. Comedian Darren Carter in studio. Good to see you, Darren.
Good to see you, Adam.
Got many questions for you. Max Patas over there as well. So, Darren, oh, God, where do we start? We'll get to know you for a minute, and then we'll get into some notable deaths of some icons from the 70s. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Did you grow up in foster care?
I did. I grew up in Fresno, so that makes it worse.
Yeah.
Fresno, foster care.
You went like Monterey foster care.
Yeah.
Carmel.
Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah.
You don't want Fresno.
Yeah, you don't want Fresno. You're like,
no.
Born and then like 3 miles away. That's your foster home. That pink house with the black bars on it. That's,
what age were you when you entered the system?
3 years old. Mm-hmm. And on some aspects, I guess I was lucky because it was the same home until I left. And
until 18?
Yeah, about 19 because I needed to save money to get out, but yeah, I was to get out, to break free of prison. But it was I was 3, then they adopted me at 9.
Oh, so it wasn't a thing. Some foster families have kids like part-time, some do multiple kids, and then some just adopt the kid,
there was 4 kids that were like permanent, I guess. But then when I was 7, my oldest brother, I guess you would call him, he moved out. So then it was just me and my 2 sisters, and they were biologically related. They were Native Americans, and then there'd be occasionally like other kids coming in and out. But I think there was too much trouble with that, and they were like, "Okay, let's not do that. Let's just keep it with the."
So you were given up by your mom, your parents.
Yeah, which it's I'm knock on wood. I'm really lucky with that. I didn't really know my father, and we can get into that a little bit later. But I didn't know him until I was in my 30s. But I always maintained a relationship with my biological grandparents. So I would see my grandma and grandpa like every other weekend until I was 9, and then once I got adopted, they kind of put that the kibosh on that, and then I would see them Christmas, birthday, that kind of thing.
What about your mom?
Yeah, she was she used to run with the Hells Angels, and that's who my dad was, and she was in prison and would be in and out of prison, and then I got to see her a couple times when I was 23.
Is it all drugs?
I think I asked my grandpa about that, and he said, it's, when I was young, they were like, oh, she's, it was shoplifting. But then I asked my grandfather about that once, and he said, once you're in that system, it's like things kind of, you're hanging out with someone that's a felon, boom, you guys both get busted and you're back in, so. But I don't know. I really don't know the real answer.
Is she around now?
She passed away, and she died in prison. And that's the day I said,
"Wow."
I know. That's the day I decided. Okay, you know how you have that thing that you're like, one day I'll deal with this. I'm like, I'm gonna look up my real dad. I knew he was in the phone book in Fresno, and I'm like, I'm gonna. This is before like social media and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, let me just look him up. And he was a Hell's Angel. He was the president of the Fresno chapter back in the day, and he had a personalized license plate, and he drove I want to say about cars, so it'd be is it a 1946 Chevrolet Starline or something like that?
A van?
No, it was a car. It was like a cool car, but he drove this car that really stood out in Fresno with the personalized light, and plus he was 6'4", and people kind of knew him, and so they'd say, hey, I saw your real dad. I saw your dad, and so I said, I knew he was still in town, and I looked him up on the phone book, and I saw the name. It said E. Ray, and I'm like, wow. I was very nervous, and I remember asking my mother-in-law. I said, I'm nervous to call, and she goes, well, if he doesn't want to know you, it's his loss. You're a great guy, and she really gave me the good pep talk. And I remember I called the phone number, and it was a landline, and his buddy answered the phone. He's, oh yeah, I've heard of you. Yeah, he went to the store. He'll be right back. He'd love to hear from you. And this guy knew like my dad and my mom, and he's like, hey, your mom, and yeah. And they're going back and forth. And then I talked to him on the phone. And the plan was to meet the next day and have lunch. And he chose the spot. He's like, yeah, we'll grab this Mexican restaurant on Belmont. And And but that night I did a show, and I told him that's why I was in town. I was a comedian. I was, and I'm on stage, and there's like, most of the audience is in their 20s and 30s and maybe 40s. And I look over, and there's these two ZZ Top looking biker guys, and I go to make a quick joke about them, and then it just hit me because you see the resemblance, and you're like, holy cow, that's my dad. And then it just. Yeah, man, it freaked me out for a second.
You met him doing crowd work?
Yes. Yeah. I like my women like I like my dad. Oh, my God, Dad. Yeah.
Did you guys do the lunch?
We did. We did the lunch. I met him after the show. Like, everybody leaves, and I was, like, still nervous to go out there. Like, man, this is weird. Like, and then his friend came back to the back of the club because that's where the restrooms were. And he's like, oh, he's out there waiting for you. You should go meet him. And it's kind of like, you're meeting a biker. But here's the thing. I also met him when he was older, calmed down, nice. I only know him one way, and that's like the friendly, gregarious, So he was great. He's very proud of his car. So we went over and showed me the car, and we talked. And yeah, and from that day forward, we I'd give him phone calls. And if I was in town, sometimes I'd, hang out with him. A lot of it, and he'd come to my shows and stuff. But
has he hit you up for anything?
No, that was what I was nervous of. Like the first 6 months, you don't know, and God rest his soul, he passed away last summer, but he was really, really nice to me, and he never hit me up or anything. Yeah, he said, because I didn't know what to call him either, because he's like, call me Pops, So
that works.
Yeah, I would always, first off, if I saw my dad, I don't think I would see any resemblance between him and me. I don't think I would connect and go, I can see in the eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think my dad looks anything like me. Number one. Number two, it is weird. The titles, even when my stepmom picks up the phone, I would go, I didn't know where to say, can I talk to Dad?
Yeah.
Can I talk to Jim, which is his first name? Yeah. Or what I end up doing is I go, can I talk to my dad? Which then feels weird with her.
You're possessive.
Yes, but I don't know.
My dad.
Yeah. So there's that. And so stand-up, travel, I know, podcasts, special.
Well, I have a question once again about the foster home.
Please
do.
Yeah.
So some of my favorite videos to watch online are when like kids in foster homes are asked to be adopted. Like there's like a ceremony, like either they
that'll
unwrap
make me
a Christmas
cry.
present. It's like, hey, we want to adopt you or anything. Did that happen with you? Was there like a?
I didn't want to be adopted, but I just kind of went in along with it. You're like,
you didn't want?
No, I wanted to go back to my real grandparents, and I wanted to go back. That's what I really wanted. And they lived, like I said, that's what I wanted. My foster parents, very strict, very religious. Church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It's tough, I mean, there was definitely some positives, but it wasn't like, yeah.
You can say no, right? If they ask to adopt you, you can say, I don't want this.
Oh, I don't know. Not when you're 9.
I'm good.
I'm cool.
I got
let
this.
Let me open a juice box and think about it.
Exactly. It's like a relationship. You got to court me longer.
Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
I'm gonna pop a juice box, get on my big wheel, go for a ride, and do some soul searching.
I need the wind in my hair for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I was funny. I was thinking about this. I have my sort of way to measure a decent childhood from a bad childhood, and it made me think about it today because I woke up this morning and I found out that Robbie Knievel had passed right on the heels of Lisa Marie Presley passing. And then I had a couple of thoughts. One is Elvis, and I don't know that we'll ever have this ever again. Elvis and Evel Knievel were just two of the biggest icons of this nation, the world, the 70s, the most recognizable people on the planet, where everyone is too sort of scattered now. You watch this show, I don't watch that show, I don't know who this is. I mean, you watch the Golden Globes, I don't know who half the people who are presenting or in the audience are, but there was a day when this nation was united on Evel Knievel and Elvis Presley, and then I started thinking, they're similar. They both had fantastic hair. They both wore the jumpsuit, the red, white, and blue jumpsuit.
Capes. They
both
had
cape.
capes.
They had the cape and the jumpsuit. I I think Evel started it, and I think Elvis may have ripped off Evel with the kind of red, white, and blue leather jumpsuit cape look, because his cape and jumpsuit were very reminiscent of Evel's. Evel probably started in the early 70s, and Elvis probably in the later or midder 70s. Mid or earlier. It was close.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking Evel and Elvis, they have like 3 of the same letters.
Oh, wow.
Even. This is Elvis and Evel. I'm guessing.
Wow.
But who came first in the jumpsuit and cape department?
That's true.
And
those are
then
too similar.
I started thinking, man, both their kids gone, and there could be no more bigger shoes to fill than Evel Knievel and Elvis Presley. But, here's the deal. I didn't think about this one until 10 seconds ago. When your dad is Evel Knievel and you're a dude, you're Robbie Knievel, you got to go out and jump a bike. You got to go break some bones.
Yeah.
I mean, Robbie Knievel probably traveled in the air further than Evel did. Now, that's technology. It's got a bike with a monoshock and some travel in it, and those, the newer fangled dirt bikes you can sail.
Well, you're right. So Robbie, he was jumping his bike at 4 years old and first performing at Evel's show at Madison Square Garden when he was 8.
Wow.
Right. So when you're a dude and your dad jumps motorcycles, and you better fucking go do the scariest thing in the world. When you're the daughter of the king, you're like, I'll just get married a shitload of times and slam some drugs and write a tell-all at some point. Like, I don't have to leave the house. I'm not going to break my ribs. It's so much more pressure.
I know.
Poor Sonny.
And then also, there's no... That's my son. There's no... My daughter. What I'm saying is if there's a societal pressure. Everyone always talks about the double standard. But if Robbie Knievel just said, I'm not working, I'm just getting married a bunch of times and doing drugs, he would be a pariah.
Right.
He's got to go he's got to go make some hay while the sun is shining. But when the daughter does it, if she says, I'm going to get a job, people go, no, sweetie. You own Graceland and you own the rights to and the likeness and image. You're like, don't be stupid and get a job. Just marry Nick Cage or Michael Jackson or something like that. Yeah.
LeBron's son is kind of doing that, right? He's on a path to becoming an NBA player now, and LeBron said, my final wish in my career is to just be on the court with him before I'm off.
Right. I don't know if he has a daughter, LeBron, but she just needs to marry a celebrity. She can go out and have the greatest career in the world, but from a societal pressure standpoint, she will not be judged for marrying a celebrity.
That's true. Whenever I would go to the boxing gym, I'd see like the fathers bringing in their sons, like professional boxers, and I'm like, man, that kid has to box. He can't be like, I'll just be over here in my phone. No, you're going to get in there.
So Joe Frazier's son, Marvis Frazier, was like forced into the heavyweight division as like an undersized heavyweight and just got destroyed.
Yeah.
He, I think Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
I think Larry Holmes fought him. We can figure it out. It's a bad sign when the guy you're fighting in between sticking jabs in your orbital socket is using his free hand to wave the ref over to go, look, I got two hands. One I'm going to use to pummel this guy's son.
Oh, wow.
The other is you should come in here and put an end to this massacre, or I'm just going to hang back. I'm going to use my free hand to talk to the ref. I think that was Larry Holmes and Marvis Frazier, but we can figure that one out. Anyway, they fought in 1983. Joe Frazier probably had a daughter who just got married to someone based on being Joe Frazier's daughter.
See, it's all perspective. Those guys are probably like, I wish I was adopted.
Yeah. So speaking of your childhood, good or bad, as I was thinking about Elvis and I started thinking about Evel Knievel, the hottest toy of 1975 was the Evel Knievel wind-up sky cycle thing.
Yeah.
You put little miniature bike with Evel Knievel, and it had like a centrifugal wheel in it. You'd wind it, and this crank thing, wind it as fast as it go, and then stop, and the thing would take off. and it would do jumps, and it was all those Whammo commercials or Mattel commercials from the 70s where it's like two white kids in a cool house with a nice driveway going, go Evel, yeah! And they'd have a cutting board up on a block, and they'd jump, and his cape and everything. And I never had one of those because that would have been like, at the time, $13, which would have been like $31 of today's dollars, which was way out of way out of bounds for my family's income bracket. But then so the way I judge this, and you tell me, you were in foster care. A good childhood is Levi's versus Tough Skins.
I had Tough. Okay, I'm gonna give the answer. Well, I had Tough Skins. Screw it. Yeah. I got Levi's later though. 501 jeans, right?
Huffy versus Schwinn in the bike department, and now I'm adding Evel Sky Cycle on there. If you said to me, my father ritualistically abused me physically, mentally, and sexually, and I said to you, but did you have Levi's, a Schwinn, and a Sky Cycle? If you said yes, I'd go, you still had a better childhood than me. Did you have the Sky? You're too young for the Sky Cycle.
I didn't have the Sky Cycle, but I have friends that have it now. Like you go to their place, and they have their office, or they have their their bedroom or something. You're
that sounds like an awesome toy now.
Yeah, I've seen it now. It's where I'm like, that's so cool. And they're like, remember this? And I don't remember.
It's very ironic 70s stuff, kind of like a Archie's lunch pail or something.
I remember pretending to be Evel Knievel. Like we'd be on our bikes, and you'd like make the little ramp off the curb, and
right.
Yeah.
Do we have that commercial? What year was that? 76, 77? Levi's, Evel's.
First issue Stunt Cycle.
It's funny, Evel, Elvis, and Levi all have a lot of same numbers.
This is Evel Knievel and the Evel Knievel shock-absorbing Stunt Cycle.
Wow.
You can make them do wheelies, backstands, even mid-air somersaults. And for that big jump, here's Evel, up and over that 4-foot ditch.
This is a great commercial. This is awesome.
Evel Knievel, sold separately or with the Evel Knievel Stunt Cycle from Ideal.
Evel made $1 billion off of this, and then he beat that reporter with a baseball bat. And then Mattel was like, yeah, that's not part of our image.
Bats sold separately.
Bats sold separately. Reporter with caved in heads, action figure. Evel beat the dude with a baseball bat and then got in front of the judge and be like, I'd do it again. If you let me out of here, I will get another bat and I'll beat that guy again. And they're like, well, then you should go to prison for a while.
Yeah.
And Mattel was like, well, maybe we'll get a little distance. Stunt Cycle, 72 to 77. They must have sold 200 billion units. Evel just hammered royalty checks. And I don't know, could we find out, Ben, what one of those retailed for? Because it's interesting to find out what my parents thought was way too expensive.
Right.
That now might constitute a tip for an Uber driver.
Right. Yeah. I know. By the way, I just rearranged the letters in Levi's and Elvis, and it's the same letters. It's funny you said that. Like Evel, and then Levi's and Elvis.
Maybe I'm getting old because of my grandfather toward the end was
I think your
doing
dyslexia is working out for you.
Yes, that's like. But the biggest in 1974, there was nothing bigger than Levi's, Elvis, and Evel.
Yep.
Maybe there's something magical about that EV kind of
combination of letters.
Yeah, because it penetrated the zeitgeist, man. All right, so there's
Don't forget about Elvira.
Elvira, the mistress of the dark. She came around a little later, though, but that I remember. The other thought I had was after I was watching the Golden Globes, women, I figured out in their life, all women start off with some sort of relationship with their hair that's tough. If you look at any woman, especially of a certain age, and you show them high school pictures of them and their hair, they're always like, "Oh, it's so embarrassing. I didn't know what to do." Guys, not as much. Their hair's kind of their hair, but women struggle mightily with their hair. And part of the reason, I think, when you see a picture of a woman and you see them like when they're in the 80s and they're in their 20s, and then you see them now and you go, she looks better now than she did back, 25 years ago or whatever it is. That's because her hair was all fucked up.
Yeah, Aquanet.
In 1989. And you think she looks better. It's really just the hair's a fucking mess. And then I realized when I was watching the Golden Globes and you see all these aging starlets, you're like, they all have their hair down perfectly now. It doesn't matter how old they are. The coloring is right. The cut is there. The hair is perfect, but their face has left the building. Like their face is fucked up. So it's like they spend the first half of their life with a good working face and fucked up hair. And then at some point they settle the hair and the face starts to go. And there's like a 6-year period in the middle where they got the hair and the face is working.
Yeah.
That's when they're in their prime.
He said left the building, Elvis.
I was on to Elvis. That was intentional.
Yeah. You don't really see any of the old lady hairstyles anymore. Like everyone's just leaning into just the long hair. When I was growing up, every woman over 50 just went, I'm going short. I'm going short hair. Maybe the curls.
Oh, and then when we were young, you had like the Tweety Bird's mom or like the Aunt Bee with the beehive. Like
every
that old lady.
Every woman at church had the same hair growing up.
You watch an episode of Love Boat from 1980, and every woman over the age of 46, maybe even 40, but like 45, just had old lady,
the old lady
Marion Ross from Happy Days, kind of.
They just lean in. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Well, there's no more. You're 50 years old. You have to have old lady hair. There's no more skinny jeans. You can't talk like a 19-year-old. We've thrown that out. Everyone is the same age now.
Yeah.
The other thing we wanted to get into, which a couple of days old, was that whole M&M's article, which I think Dawson has somewhere. So I have a thought. So M&M's is, doing their female power M&M's and their
yeah. Well, remember a few months ago, they released like new character looks.
The Stunt Cycle listed for $9.99. In 1973, so bridge too far for the Corollas.
Yeah.
$9.99.
Yeah, sorry. 125 million.
Jeez.
And Evel must have got 50 cents or a buck off of every fucking unit back then. Jesus Christ.
That's how much the company made.
Oh, that's how much the company made. Oh,
125 million, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So, sorry, what were we talking about? M&M?
M&M's, yeah. So, a few months ago, they released like, our characters are getting new looks. Like, we're losing the boots off this this M&M, and we're trying to make them a little more fun, a little more casual, maybe. And then now they came out with a new package and a new version of them.
Oh yeah, like they're all women, right? And I think 2 of them are lesbians as well. Right? Did you see that?
It looks like it. I mean, I don't know if they've confirmed. I mean, they're not. They're just sitting next to each other, looking longingly into each other's eyes. So it's kind of implied, but it's the women M&Ms, and they're like the package. They're turned upside down. So like the M&Ms is written one way, and then they're the other. Yeah, they're the other way, and it's like meant to empower, like to show all the women who've turned things upside down and make things work for them. Like it's
Dawson has the article somewhere.
Yeah, Mars to offer all female M&Ms for limited time to honor successful women all over the world. M&M's creator Mars will release the all female M&M's candy for women who are flipping the status quo. The company announced the feminist-forward candy wrappers Thursday, saying it will exclusively display M&M's female characters.
Couple things. How long are we going to ride this? Women, you need to step up and fight for your right for a seat at the table. I know it's an Oprah, Michelle Obama sack of shit, but what I'm saying is it's 2023. Most women I know are leading much better lives than me. Number one,
they're more successful than me.
Is there some issue with them working or something, or driving an automobile?
The other day I was driving in a parking garage, and I saw a woman with her hood up, and she was in there, and I was like, Oh boy, because like all my past girlfriends, I've had to help with their cars, like their car problems were my car. So I'm like, oh man, I feel bad for her as I'm driving, and I notice, oh no, that's a Tesla. And she's just putting her groceries away in her frunk. And, so she has a way better car than I do, and I'm an idiot for thinking that she's having trouble with her car.
Don't tell a woman you like her frunk because it sounds too much like gunt.
I don't like saying frunk either.
It feels marginally sexual.
Nice frunk.
Hey, babe, nice frunk.
Here's the great irony of this.
Maybe I could store my kielbasa in that frunk, huh? I bought too much kielbasa at the store. Could I drop some in your frunk?
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. You can't do that.
This series of marketing moves by the Mars Company has been made to promote inclusivity
Yep.
by not including
Dudes.
Yeah.
And also, is there something where like women are being shunned? You know what I mean? Or not included? It's a crazy narrative. And as I've said many, many times, it's all a hustle. And the reason you know it's a hustle is because Barack Obama was a 2-term black president. And when he got elected, the hustlers had to ratchet up the hustle. There was much less talk about racism and systemic. We didn't even have systemic racism in 2000 or 2004 or whatever it is. Once Obama got elected, all of the fucking hustlers, which includes the media, said, oh, fuck, we got a black president. How are we going to keep this narrative going? And it's like, we got to pedal faster to keep this bullshit going. So as women make more money, as they become CEOs, as the richest, you go to the Forbes, 20 most successful, and there's 11 women on there, and 5 of them are black, or they're all black. The point is as that goes, as reality goes, the hustlers got to fucking pedal harder to keep the string of bullshit alive. So that's why you hear more of it now than you did in 1995. So, and they do this thing too where they go, we've come a long way. Have we come a long way according to you race hustling ass and your misogynist ass? Like, have we come a long way? Because I was around in 1993 and no one gave a shit. People just worked together, walked around. We didn't segregate everything. We didn't bust up every award show into this group and that group. So we've come a long way from the time when we weren't talking about it all day, every day.
Yeah. The same people are saying that are also saying this is an issue that is plaguing our nation.
Yes, I know.
Right.
The only time we've come a long way or you've come a long way has been true in advertisement was for Virginia Slim cigarettes.
Come a long way, baby.
Because women indeed had come a long way.
Yes.
And now you can
That's
smoke
true.
cigarettes with the men.
Yeah, that Sky Cycle, that Evel Knievel Stunt Cycle, the commercial was the best part of my childhood. I had
Mom, the commercial's on.
They'd have some knockoff to vehicle. They'd always have the vehicle horn section and like bum ba-dum, bum ba-da. They would always hit the horns and then they'd show the guys and I'd be going, oh man, this is such an awesome commercial. We got horns blaring in the background. We got Evel airborne.
Were you more of a big wheel guy or a green machine?
I had, and I still don't think we can find this, but one of my prized possessions. God, I've never thought about this. I'm glad you brought this up. It's weird how the human mind works, but I always loved go-karts, mini bikes, dirt bikes, like movement, and my dream, my goal when I was 9 or 10 is I wanted a Honda XR75. I wanted a dirt bike, and I remember one Christmas really launching a campaign starting in I started late May, and I was like, Mom, if I could get that bike, it would teach me responsibility, and it would teach, and I kept going, and I just remember I was relentless with a Honda XR75, like from 1976 or something. I just went, and I would sit in my room and plan. If I got it, I would build like a under subterranean garage in my backyard. I'd dig a hole and I'd put a plywood above it or something. Obsessive. So I was mechanically obsessed mechanically. And it's a gene. It's just a thing. it's just, I love rims, I love tires, I love everything mechanical. I'm obsessed with mechanics. I always was. And but I was tortured because no one in my family liked it, had any garage or tools or cars or any. At least your biker dad had a car he loved, not my stupid dad. He didn't have any car.
So this was kind of foreign to them. Like, why are you interested in stuff like this?
It was like, I would imagine being gay at age 9 and looking around and, going, oh, maybe Susie will ask you to the Sadie Hawkins dance. And I was like, I don't want those. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with it? I don't want that. Yeah. And everyone was showing you pictures of their girlfriend. And I was like, I like you, dude, not her. And they go, isn't it awesome? I'm going to ask her to go steady or something. And I was like, yeah. So that's who I was with mechanical shit.
How did you do it at the house? Were there tools, like any kind of tools, screwdrivers, anything? You just start tightening light sockets?
No, if I got something like a pull and play or something that counts, so I would start taking it apart to see what was inside of it. But I didn't have any tools, no garages, and my dad is, without going into 20-minute dissertation, just the lamest. If Stephen Hawking was your dad, you'd have more tools and more time in the driveway working on a car. He didn't know.
That was a low blow, Adam.
Yeah, sorry, Stephen, but we could pop the hood on the frunk. He didn't.
Nice callback.
He did not know anything and was not interested and didn't own I used to have to use a butter knife as a slot head screwdriver because we didn't have. Anyway. So, big wheel. And you can look, Ben, is there a commercial for something called the Chopperoo? So here's my deal. I wanted mechanical and go-karts and mini bikes and anything. It was all, I wasn't getting the Evel Knievel bike, much less a go-kart or a mini bike or a Honda XR75 or Ben, I don't know what a Honda XR75 in like 1976, whatever that retailed for, was not even 100 million thousand.
You're not even getting the toy one. You're going to get the real one?
I know, but I had this thought that if I just launched a full like D-Day type campaign on my mom that lasted several months, maybe. I always had this fantasy that like they might break protocol and just go, here you go, son. Like there's a bow on it. We love you. Pull great. The shit. They never did. They never broke. She took it to the grave. But the point is, you do have this fantasy that it's some, like the beaten woman with the alcoholic husband. Like maybe he'll just come home sober with flowers. Like just once,
Yeah. He had some hope.
But it never happened. But the big wheel was all the rage.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I realized about the big wheel was front wheel drive.
Oh, the big wheels, you're still pedaling. It's not like a power wheel. You're pedaling.
You pedal, you sit in a laid back kind of chopper kind of position.
Oh, yeah.
And pedal. But what I got from the big wheels, a lot of front wheel spin and chatter. I'm like, the people would be blah, 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 and it'd just be, because the weight was shifted back.
Yeah.
Now, the Chopperoo had a rear wheel chain drive.
Wow.
With the pedals in the front, the same place. It just had a chain and rear wheels. And I'm shifting all my weight back. My ass is over the rear wheels. And it's funny, later on, I hated front wheel drive cars because my ex-wife had a front wheel drive Volvo once. And it's like when you pulled down and there's some water on the ground or something and you punched it to get around the corner of traffic is coming, the weight of the car would tilt back.
Oh boy.
And the front wheels would just chatter, kind of spin out a little bit. I never liked front wheel drive cars, but I didn't know. I thought this started with front wheel drive cars. It started with the big wheel versus the Chopperoo. I was so mechanical that everyone's front wheel spinning out didn't feel good to me. And what it happens, you hold the handlebars, you lean back and you start pedaling. It gets light on the front end and the wheel, which is just plastic, just chatters. But the Chopperoo chain drive.
That's what the kid in The Shining was like riding around the hallways in, right?
Correct. Was he in the big wheel?
The big wheel.
Probably
that was a big wheel. The other thing
Yeah.
about the big wheel is the front tire that had all the traction. It was made of plastic.
Yep.
So
Yes.
when you're a kid and you're doing skids and sliding out trying to go really fast, what you'll end up doing is flattening a portion of that
Oh,
wheel,
yeah, you flat spot.
and then your big wheel is doing
Yes.
this the whole time.
We have the big wheel commercial.
Yes.
The Chopperoo, I don't know. The Chopperoo commercial was the chop, chop, Chopperoo. That's what I remember, but I don't know that you might just be able to find a picture of it or something. Well, here's Big Wheel. Taking a walk down memory lane.
Oh, yeah.
That's not
Yes,
a big
it's
wheel.
furious.
Yeah, what's that?
It's Chopperoo.
Oh, that's Chopperoo. Oh,
Oh, look at this
That really
thing.
lets you move out.
Wow.
Adjust the seat, climb
can
aboard,
move.
and go.
Yeah,
go,
this is a
go.
great feat of engineering.
yeah.
right
See, the Chopperoo had chains.
Furious and loaded
Foldable
with thrills
chair.
is Chopperoo.
Yeah,
Oh,
one
look
of the
at
things
these
got a
wheels.
frunk.
Chopperoo.
It's still a different Chopperoo slightly than I remember. But anyway, one Christmas, I didn't get the XR75, but I did land the Chopperoo
Great.
Oh, that's cool.
with the
Hell
chain
yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
And all the weight in the back. And by the way, instead of one skinny ass tire in front like a big wheel, two meaty slicks in the back to propel
Yes.
me.
And you
Yeah.
could have gotten a big wheel after that with all the street races and stuff with your friends.
Hey, we're going for pinks. All right, let me tell you guys about Good Ranchers. Here's one New Year's resolution that you should tack on to whatever the one you're not currently keeping. That's get your life together with some Good Ranchers. Get some serious good protein in your life. Good Ranchers, 100% American meat company that delivers the best cuts of beef, chicken, and seafood right to your door, all sourced from local U.S. farms. And right now, get over 2 pounds of chicken free in every box for a year when you subscribe. So you want to go to the market and pick through the pile of meat, get the good stuff delivered right to your door, and get the free chicken as well. That's a year's worth of America's best chicken free. $149 value when you subscribe. And you get the box at goodranchers.com. That's goodranchers.com. Plus, you get a bonus, $20 off if you use my code Adam at checkout. So I know a lot of these people trying to eat the good protein. Let's start with Good Ranchers, right, Dawson?
Start your year right. May change the way you buy meat by switching to Good Ranchers. Make sure you subscribe today and use code Adam to claim your free chicken for a year and $20 off your first box. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
All right, take a quick break. Be right back after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Adam, I think you're a genius, but I think you're sleeping on the hotel standard room. Whenever you got to deuce it up, you got to make an excuse, go down to the lobby, and use the one in the lobby. Just saying. So we do every time. It works every time. Thanks for everything.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Yeah, here's the problem, though. Well, we were talking about staying in the hotel room alone, the standard room, fine. One of your buddies, road trip, going to go see the Giants play at Giant Stadium or something, fine. King Suite, fine if you're with a lady, no problem. But you're with the lady in the standard room and you got to deuce it up. There could be an issue. Now, the issue with going down and doing the lobby one is well, first off, you got to cook something up. You can't go, I'm going to go pinch a loaf in the lobby. You have to
Take that ice bucket with you.
Yeah, take that ice bucket at 9:15 in the morning. Like, I just want to freshen up my highball. That's all. I'm going down to the lobby. But look, ostensibly there's between 9 and 16 other dudes that have picked up the let's drop the deuce in the lobby head, and now you're all heading down after your first cup of coffee in the room. You're all heading down there with the sports page at 9:45, destroying this place.
That's true, because that's also my move too. So I'm sure a ton of people think of that, just going to the lobby, because lobby bathrooms have gotten a lot nicer. I don't know what it is, but the lobby bathrooms bathrooms. I think hotels are onto that.
I
and
hate
they
when I'm
just
in the
know.
bathroom and somebody's in there with like their phone on and like they're in the stall and you're waiting to go in there and they're like playing some YouTube video or something or
You're hearing a game.
yeah, you're in a game. You're like, dude, like just come on. You're not at home. Like speed it up a little bit.
All right. Other things I wanted to get into was I don't know where Dawson is, but and Ben, did you have that Hank Johnson clip? Always funniest one in the world. Did we find
The
that
Guam one?
Well, there was one before that.
We got both.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's both. Let's play Hank Johnson, who's from Atlanta, and he's a senator or is a congressman.
Congressman.
Here's the deal. I've said I never thought adults would be this stupid. We'll play the other one first, but you hear like our representatives speak now, and you're like, oh my God, these people are dumb. Like look, Mark Garagos does a fair bit of lying, but he's definitely not dumb. There's a difference between lying for your side, which both sides do, or just being dumb. And so it made me laugh because they caught up to Hank Johnson on the steps of the Capitol and they asked him, what about Biden now in those files?
Those classified
documents. What about
that?
Yeah.
Now, he's got a theory, but it's not even the theory. Listen to how he articulates the theory, and then I'll give you another clip, which is my favorite all-timer.
My response to it all is that alleged classified documents showing up allegedly in the possession of Joseph Biden, there's so much that needs to be investigated, and that's what I call for, is for everything to be investigated. But I'm suspicious of the timing of it. I'm also aware of the fact that things can be planted on people. Places and things can be planted. Things can be planted in places and then discovered conveniently. That may be what has occurred here. I'm not ruling that out. But I don't.
The whole point is he's not. First off, he can't articulate.
That's what I sound like when a teacher asked me about that book we were supposed to read, and I have no idea. I didn't read it at all.
It's also his hand. He moves his hand, and he hopes that his hand will help his mouth, but the hand is looking at him, going, "What do you want me to do? You got to talk to the brain." It's like, I'm going to move my hand to make people people capable of being planted. Persons and people and places and their boxes can be people planted on.
I'm suspicious of the timing.
I'm not ruling out people being planted in places with things. What? First off, what is this guy doing all day? He's making decisions and policy all fucking day. Like.
His brain, though, is like, you're killing this, bud. You got this.
Yeah, I'm questioning why now, who put that there?
Nailed it.
Also, one of his aides has to stand behind the cameraman and do the wrap it up thing. Wrap it up, Hank.
An Easter Bunny needs to go to him and be like, hey, man, we got to go over there now. It's time to get out of here.
Yes, he should travel with an Easter Bunny. But his all-timer is him questioning the admiral about the island of Guam.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam population, I think, currently about 175,000.
Right. Somebody needs to do. We're all enablers for Hank Johnson. The admiral should have been. What the fuck are you talking about, Holmes? Because you're insane.
The SS Guam.
Yes. Jesus Christ. All right. So Hank Johnson's out making decisions. Everybody.
I wonder if the people were dumb when we were young and we just didn't know it, or is it?
I think that was it.
You know what I mean? But now there's more cameras, there's more outlets.
I think here's what it is. Here's what I think we're seeing. Well, I think people had more wisdom when we were younger, and I think the wisdom kind of people were more religious and they had more wisdom, and so it sort of kept them staying out of the drainage ditch of fucking retarded ideas. They stayed sort of on the pavement because wisdom and common sense and horse sense and, just like Grandpa used to do it, like, that kind of basic sort of American sort of roll your sleeves up and get to work, like kind of a wisdom keeps people on the road. We have tons of dingbats, men and women, who are just completely not even near logic or sanity or wisdom anymore. But there's also a thing, and this is the problem. Maybe Hank Johnson illustrated this, because I was talking to Dr. Drew about it, and he's like, man, these people they sound like idiots. Like they sound like complete and utter idiots. Like somebody was saying to Nancy Pelosi when everyone was tearing down statues and burning everything down, like, you think it's okay for people to just willy-nilly in the middle of the night tear down statues? Yeah, people are going to do what they're going to do. It's like, that's not a leader. The leader should go, look, we should do this in an orderly fashion. I'm not a fan of some of these Civil War generals, but we'll have a discussion and we'll safely remove it with guys wearing like hard hats and reflective vests, not have heshers climb to the top of it, light on fire, and pull it over. I mean, but she can't do that because it's her side is the ones that's tackling the statues. Now,
isn't that tough though? Because if you are a Democrat or Republican, like whatever's happening, even in your brain, it's wrong. You can't go against it.
Well,
you have to stick to it.
So what I was saying to Drew is I gave this metaphor 2 days ago when I was talking to him. It's like, these people seem like idiots. I can't believe what they sound like. And the answer, because you can't go batshit crazy over the guy on the other side with classified documents, and then your guy 10 minutes later gets found with classified, and you go, that's a totally different. No, you have to go, I understand it's important, and I still back the man, but let's let the DOJ sort it out. And
I would love that. I would love to hear people do that.
Well,
we all would.
Well, okay, so here's the example. Here's the example, and here's why you sound like a major league fucktard speaking into a microphone now. Both sides. Because if I said, let's just say, my wife said, I came home the other night, you were asleep and the garage door was open. You got to remember to shut that door. And I'd go, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And then I went, I bet one of the kids did it. I bet Sonny did it. And she went, well, Sonny slept over at his friend's house last night. So, well, then Natalia, then the girl did. Well, remember, she was out of town that night. Then the nanny did it. The nanny must have, because I didn't open the garage. I didn't leave it open. I opened it and then I shut it, and then someone else must have opened it. No, the nanny was off that week. Dogs can open garage doors. I have seen, you check the YouTube, you can see a dog, like, I know the button's up high, but the dog can get up to that. All right. So now I sound like an insane, retarded person who escaped an institution, right? And the person you'd be talking to would go, fuck, this person's just fucking admit you may have left the door open. You know what I mean? But I won't let it go. I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep offering alternative reasons as to why it wasn't me. And at some point, we're going to get to the dog, and then you're going to go, this adult sounds batshit crazy. That you make yourself sound like a crazed fucking retard when you won't let it go. You have to let it go at a certain point.
I wonder if he was like that when they did that with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. I wonder if he was like, evidence can be planted. We don't know.
I'm sure we'll find a ton of footage about him with the same hot take about planting evidence.
Right.
Oh, all right. So that's that. What else do we got?
Well, aren't
Chris,
you're going to Kimmel's reunion, right?
Yes. Kimmel is doing his 20-year reunion. 20 years on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Yeah, our very own Mike Lynch is flying out for that. Like he hit up everybody who's ever touched that show, it sounds like.
Yeah, Lynch is staying with me this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. He's a good, thoughtful house guest. I think he stayed with me before, too. And Yeah, August is going. Everyone. I guess it's a big deal. 20 years.
Where is
late
it?
night. Somewhere downtown. I haven't. First off, I don't know because there's too many new hip, hot, trendy whatever's downtown that I wouldn't even know. But somewhere downtown. That's all I got. So that's good. And I didn't. Jimmy's so nice. I fucked up the RSVP. You know, I can't figure out my email address or how to reply to the whatever. So he just called me.
That sounds like something you could just show up to.
I guess they're trying to get a head count. I also think Jimmy was like, well, you need to be there because I think I have the record for most appearances on that show. But the only reason I have the record for most appearances on that show is because I wrote on that show for the first several years. I don't know, 3 years? I can't remember. But he could not book any guests at the very beginning. It's impossible to book a show at the beginning. And I was always just there sitting in the writer's room. And so every time somebody couldn't get booked or dropped out or whatever, they would just say, come on, just go in there.
I mean, you got Adam Carolla there. What do you do? You know, like,
Yeah.
hey, Adam, do you have anything on pogo sticks? And then, boom, you're just going to go off and be like,
yeah.
Well, you and Jimmy,
Chopperoos.
You and Jimmy famously went to Snoop Dogg's house when you guys were doing the Man Show. And for the listeners, Darren Carter has like a weird connection to Snoop.
Oh, that's real, baby boo. Yeah.
What is your connection to Snoop?
I used to do, well, occasionally I still do the impression. I'd be on stage.
Wow, it's a capital S, so yes, I'm fresh and double OP, D-O-double-G-Y-D-O-D.
You know what I mean? I would do it. And his cousin saw me at the Improv.
You'd think it's a coincidence, but Snoop has 471 cousins. I mean, we all know one of his cousins, or he calls everyone cuz.
Oh, no.
It's hard to tell Snoop whether people are biologically related to you because he'd be like, my cuz is out getting chicken, my other cuz is sparking up a joint, my cuz. He called everyone his cousin.
It's pretty safe for him to just say cuz and it would land. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he invited me. You're right, because it's funny. I knew these two comedians. I thought they were really brothers. He's like, no, I call it, that's my brother. What's up, bro? What's up?
Right.
I really thought they were brothers. But anyways, with Snoop Dogg, he invited me to do the family reunion. And at the time, my jokes weren't that flattering.
Wait, so his cousin just saw you at the Improv and just calls Snoop like in Back to the Future, like called out his phone, like Snoop,
sent out the Snoop signal.
This is the sound you've been looking for.
No, what happened was he goes, let me talk to his mom and his aunt, and because I guess Snoop's aunt was that guy's mom. So I met with, I want to say her name was Beverly, and this guy. And the cousin and the aunt, and then they came out to the Ice House to come see me perform. And then afterwards, they were like, "Okay, perfect, you're approved. It's going to be at the Reef in Long Beach, this restaurant. Come down, it'll be great. We'll pay you, and blah blah blah." And the funny part was they said no cursing.
What? And
no cursing because there's all kinds of kids.
My grandmama's out there. Yeah.
And then they invited me back. I did it a second year.
So if there's no cursing, is marijuana allowed? Like
yes, there was like I remember they came out of the bathroom. There was like 35 people at least came out in just a plume of smoke. And I felt like a lot of times at that reunion that other people, it was also their first time meeting Snoop Dogg because everybody wanted a picture and everybody wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much time did you do?
Did about 10 minutes.
How much of it was
easy.
Snoop?
A little bit in the beginning and a little at the end, and then it went great. My friend was like, he was loving you, and I was sitting next to Snoop and Warren G, afterwards. Wow. And then they invited me back the next year. I got to do it again, and he introduced me the next year.
Oh, then he brought you up. That's cool.
Yeah,
that must be terrifying to have an impression, then have the guy in front of you, and you do the impression for him of him.
Well, if it's
like Bill Maher certainly loves Kyle Dunnigan's impression of him.
Right. Well, if it's Nathan Lane, I wouldn't be that intimidated by it. But Snoop Dogg could be packing. One of his cousins could get offended. That's all. All right. I think Nick Blood, actor, is in our waiting room. He's zooming in, so we'll talk to him about his. Well, he's done everything, so I got a lot to talk to him about. We'll do that right after this.
It's
time for Nicaraguan Name That Movie with Adam's buddy Oswaldo. See if you can guess which movie this famous line is from.
Kneel before Thought.
If you said Superman 2,
Kneel before Zod!
You're correct. Now, back to the show.
Well, we're back with actor Nick Blood, who's zooming in. The Offering is a very scary movie that he's starring in. It's in theaters and available on VOD out January 13th. And we'll get into that and beyond. Good to see you, Nick.
You too. I've got to thank you, actually, because when I told my fiance I was doing this, she went, because she basically said that she learned everything about sex through you back in the day when she was a teenager. So maybe I have to thank you as well.
Oh yeah, it's paying dividends for you. Yeah, it's so weird. So many people used to listen to Loveline back in the day,
yes.
And now they're all, adults now.
Yeah, she said she used to be in her room and she'd sneak it, into her room thinking that, she was listening to something naughty and subversive, and she said, yeah, she got her education on that. I'm surprised she doesn't run in and say hello, actually. She's very keen.
I gotta say, it sounds it sounds in a way, it was a simpler time. It's like kids, we'd go into the room with their AM, FM radio and hide under the blankets and listen to the Forbidden Show. It's like hearing about pickpockets versus guy beat up on fentanyl, cracked someone over the head with a sprinkler key, and then urinated on him. Yeah. It's like, it was just a simpler, quaint. It was like almost quaint.
Yeah, instead of worried about, people stealing your identity and credit card fraud, it's like you could only have to worry about a pickpocket. I think go old school, go analog theft.
So for you, you can switch between an accent, a dialect, of England, where you're born, and an American one, right? With no trace of it.
I hope so. If you think so, I'll take it. But we're kind of lucky because we grew up watching so many American movies that I think it's easier that way around than American actors doing British. I work on it, but I think I've always, just grown up watching American movies and stuff. And it's like certain accents, depending on, I think, where you're from, kind of easier. So I'm pretty good at regional UK accents, but every now and then there'll be one that's so hard because our accents are crazy, just so varied.
I know most people, I think a lot of people know you also from Euphoria, which turned out to be just a mega hit on Netflix. I saw you, let's see, whose dad did you play?
Sydney Sweeney's dad. Yeah.
Is that going to keep going? Are we going to do more seasons?
I'm honest answer. I'm not sure. I've not heard anything yet, but I guess watch this space. It's such an incredible show, and Sam Levinson, who created it, that guy is something else, man. I've never witnessed anything like it. The guy has every frame in his head before he's shooting. The guy just lives and breathes filmmaking. He's going to win Oscars someday, that guy.
Is he a young guy?
Yeah, he's only around, I think the first season he was probably 38, something like that. And he reminds me of just mates of mine growing up. He's just, got his cap on, his kind of hoodie, and he's just kind of loafing around a bit set, just very kind of casual and laid back. But the guy, I was chatting to him about how he created the show, and the weird thing is, it's originally based off I think it's an Israeli show. Mm-hmm. But it's nothing to do with it. It pretty much ended up that it was just the title or something that they lifted. But he was telling me that he wrote a whole season and then decided, nah, I don't really like it, and just rewrote it completely, a completely different story. He doesn't plan anything. He just sits down and writes. The guy's off the scale. He's incredible.
I know you're a musician as well. And I know you did a play, and I guess in England, where you're playing the fifth Beatle. You had to learn to play the bass for that role.
I did.
And then kept going.
Yeah, I think calling me a musician is probably a bit of a stretch, but it's one of those things with my job, which is so fortunate, is that you get to travel to different places, but every now and then you're just forced to learn a new skill. And I didn't grow up with the confidence thinking, music's for someone else, but I managed to pull it off. And I have my own notation system because I couldn't read music. So, and it was such a buzz. We did the West End, and then we did a stint at the Armanson in Los Angeles, and we did a stint in Toronto. And in Toronto, on the first night there, some of the guys found this rock and roll bar, got to know the staff, and then every Sunday we'd go there and play a gig. And to get to do that, I thought I'd never be on stage getting to, as a musician. And then I did another film called Spike Island, where I played the lead singer of a band, and we had this day where it was a gig in a pub. And oh man, I didn't want it to end. I was just, when they called, cut on the day, so that's a wrap for the day, I was like, what? Is that it? Can we not carry on? I want to keep going. I'm all these adoring fans.
When you were playing the pub, were you doing all Beatles songs? Because that's what you were playing in the play?
Yeah, we'd pretty much would be a few Beatles songs, but a lot, because the era of that play, so it's about Stu Sutcliffe, the original bassist, who died very young, which is the role I was playing. And it was a lot of just classic rock and roll tunes they would play. But the cool thing about that was, so my dad had died maybe the year before, and I just started to do auditions again because I needed the time off. And I'd got this audition come through, and I said to my agent, is this a musical? Because I don't sing, I'm not. He said, no, it's a play, but it's got music in it. And I wasn't sure about it. He said, just go for it. And then I just thought, you know what, I know this story about Stu Sutcliffe because it's one of the lesser known stories of the Beatles, because my dad was his neighbour growing up in Liverpool, and his claim to fame was that he played football with a Beatle. He wouldn't always mention it was the fifth Beatle.
That's what I'd say.
So it was really, really special for me and my family, because it was, if my dad had seen that, he would have just not been able to control himself with pride, because it's his son on stage playing the lead role in the West End, but he's playing a guy from Liverpool. He's got a Scouse accent, and it's one of his neighbours. He would have I don't think he'd have been able to cope.
What was the story with Stu Sutcliffe? Did he leave the band and then die?
So what happened was, him and John Lennon met at art college, and John Lennon had this a bit of a man crush on him, really. He was quite obsessive over him. There's rumours, and in Stu Sutcliffe's sister's book, she talks about them having hooked up at one point, and then they had this fight where John was, a very jealous young man. So he just thought Stu was the coolest thing ever. So he wanted him in the band just because he was cool. So he said, you can just play bass. And Stu, because he was no good at bass, would often stand with his back to the audience because he couldn't work out. But John just thought he brought the cool to the band. They go off to Hamburg, playing in the rock and roll clubs of Hamburg, and then Stu meets Astrid Kircher, who recently died a couple of years ago. Fell in love with her. He's 22. He's a prolific artist. A lot of art historians say that he would have become one of the British greats, which is kind of incredible when you think of all that talent in one little gang of young men. So he just got deep into his art and went to art college in Hamburg. But it was because of him they had the bowl cuts. So he was hanging out with the jazz crowd in Hamburg. They all had these floppy haircuts. Astrid gave him that haircut, and all the lads copied it. And the collarless suits were designed by Astrid as well. But then he just decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He wasn't into it. And then he sadly had a brain aneurysm and died at 22. And there is suggestion sometimes that it was he might have been his head damaged in the fight with John. But it could have been some of the scrapes they got into when they're in Hamburg. It could just have been bad luck. It's a sad story, but a hell of a talent. You should check out his artwork.
Yeah, I guess we can see it online for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this story. I only knew Pete Best. I didn't know there was another Beatle.
Funnily enough, when we did the show in LA, Pete Best's nephew played Astrid. Played Astrid. And she's really cool. She's an actress, Leanne Best. You'll see her crop up in various things. Really great actress. It's Pete Best's niece.
I think Best is a good last name for an actor or an actress, because if you
Right.
go in and you audition and there's 13 people, and at the end people are like, well, who do we hire?
Well, also Blood. He's in a
I'm
horror
going
movie.
Blood for horror and Best for the comedy over there.
A little on the nose.
Nick, first off, I don't know, like, is Blood, do you get made fun of when you're in junior high with the last name Blood, or are people scared shitless of you because your last name is Blood?
I'm not quite tall enough or big enough for people to be that scared. But when I was a little kid, I hated it because, anything different, anything that makes you stand out, you don't want it. And I remember I always got this distinct memory of doing a swimming club thing. And as I went to register my name, they misheard it and said Flood. And I just went, yeah, because I didn't want my name to be read out.
Right.
And then when I got to teenage years, I learned it's a great name because you can't forget it, which is not always great. Though I learned, because if you do anything bad, everyone knows the name Nick Blood. You can't avoid it. So it's a blessing and a curse.
I don't know if you write, if you want to direct, if you're you're expanding your creative horizons.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up, the stuff I did as a kid was a drama workshop where it was all improvising and devising. And what I then kind of realized is that you're writing. That's what you're doing. You're just doing it live or just kind of 15 minutes before you're about to show the rest of the class. So when I went to drama school, I got encouraged by some of the teachers saying, you're a writer, you can write. And so me and another friend, we won this award for this little play that we did for the Old Vic Theatre in London. And then I've been at it since then, but, acting can sidetrack you and takes up a lot of time. But I do have a film that an actor, my best friend and another fellow actor, Ian DeCastiga, who was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with me, we're working on getting that off the ground this year. So watch this space on that one.
Yeah.
So you've not done any horror stuff per se, right? Before the offering?
I'd love to say no, because I did do a pretty shocking horror film years ago. So I'll erase that one from my memory. So let's say, this is all new.
Why? Now we need to know. Yeah. What's the name?
Were you in the middle of the Human Centipede?
Do you know what? I've got a good story about it, actually. So I'm friends with Morrissey's nephew, and I'm a huge Smith fan, right? Massive Smith fan.
Yes.
Big Morrissey fan and everything. So I'm very fortunate that Sam, his nephew, will get me in, guest list with gigs and everything. And one day he texts me and he says, oh, I'm over at Uncle's and he's watching you on the telly. And I was like, what? It blew my mind that Morrissey is sat there watching me on the TV. And he said, oh yeah, so I'm explaining how I know you and that we're friends. And I'm thinking, now he actually knows who I am now. Freaking out. And I was eventually go, what's he watching? And it was this horror film. and I was just like, please, mate, just tell him I've done better stuff than that. Tell him to watch this, tell him to watch that. Like, please, that can't be how he views me. And he said, he's watched it 3 or 4 times. He loves it.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Oh, that rules.
So I'm just picturing there stroking his cat, watching this terrible horror film, what he makes of it.
You're like, it wasn't me, it was Nick Flood.
Really good swimmer.
What was the name of the horror film? And now we got to look it up on Rotten Tomatoes.
I don't want to say. No, I'm just going to leave you to guess. You just have to work it out.
Well,
it's terrible because if the director ever watches this, it'll be horrified.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well,
we'll
take a little walk down IMDb.
Well, we're figuring that out, Nick. So I know you moved here once you got the Marvel gig. Is there anything that you notice like that Americans do that either is insanely dumb and you're like, why is that a thing here, or bloody brilliant?
I mean, yeah, there's loads of little things. It's things like, I couldn't believe that you had to pay your rent with a check. Stuff like that, where I'm just, that makes no sense to me. Just set up a direct debit. And I remember going into the bank to set up a bank account and said, can I see your savings accounts? They showed me savings accounts with 0.02% interest. I was like, what's the point? I might as well just keep the cash under my bed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I asked about bank accounts, and they said this whole thing that where you have to pay a monthly fee. unless you've got a certain amount in your account. And I was like, people pay to have a bank account. And they're like, yeah. They said, and I was like, that's crazy. Why do you charge me that? I said, well, how else do you think we make money? And I was like, you work in a bank and you think that's how banks make money? No, you're taking my cash and investing in, the arms trade or something. That's how you make money. You don't make it from $25 a month from people. So that blows my mind. And the fact that if you've got 10 grand in your bank, they don't charge anything. If you've got 100 grand, you get all these extra things. So you're literally making poor people poorer and rich people richer. So there's those little things, but then there's loads of stuff I love. I love the positivity. As an actor, my friend has, you'll get this in your industry as well, but my friend has this analogy where he says, in the UK, it's like you go into the room and they've got this shiny, nice bit of jewelry and they hold it behind their back and they go, dance for me. And if I like your dance, maybe I'll let you have a look at this nice bit of jewelry. And you do your dance and they go, okay, there you go, you can have a look at it. And they put it behind their back and say, come back next week and I might let you try it on. Whereas in America, you walk in the room and they pull out this, and they go, we've got this nice bit of jewelry. Try it on. Oh my God, he looks amazing, this jewelry. Doesn't he look amazing? You look brilliant, this jewelry.
It's yours now.
And a lot of British actors find that cynical because I think they think you're handing out movie star passes at the airport at LAX. And when they don't, and when they don't become a movie star, they slag off LA. Whereas I like that positivity. I like the hunger that America has. There's a kind of, it's also, I found it with going to art shows there. There's so much bad art in LA. Bad art. You got all these actors that go, I'm not really working, I'll become an artist, and they just throw some paint at a canvas and they're an artist.
Sure.
And I'd go to these gallery openings or charity auctions, and what was amazing to me is that people just buy it all. And I was like, I can't see one more painting of a stencil of Mickey Mouse with spray painted fuck on it or something like that. Yeah. But they'd all get sold. And it was this thing where, again, I think in America there's that thing of people go, they look and they go, okay, any of these things could be the next big thing. I'm going to buy all of them and one of them will come off. Right. Whereas in Britain, everyone stood there going, what's the next big thing? What, I'm just going to wait and we'll see what everyone else wants. And then by the time they've done that, it's too late because it's gone. But I do really like that positivity. I think you just need to remind yourself that it doesn't mean anything until you've got the job or whatever. But I love the passion for new talent as well. I think people in America really go for it, and you can go from zero to hero quite quickly there. I think in the UK it's a bit different, and that's got pros and cons. You can build things here. I find in America a lot of times it's like rolling the dice, and you might come up double sixes, but you might come up with nothing.
The UK, I remember very specifically one of the things I loved about when I was in the UK, which was the urinals out on the street in front of the pubs at night. And the reason I loved it is because I believe it looked like it was like somebody carved out 3 spaces so 3 guys could take a leak. And so it was super efficient. So LA, at least, and many other cities here, any stairwell of any parking garage is going to smell like piss.
Those are our urinals.
We have some weird fantasy that people don't need to urinate for days and days, and so then we did this thing too where we went, no gas station in LA will let you use their bathroom. So now we have no bathrooms to use anywhere. You see signs up at the Starbucks like bathroom for employees only, whatever. So we've done all that, and then we don't put anything out in the street, and so people just piss all over the store. They piss. I don't know.
There's no ventilation. Like we're
right. They go to the stairwell of every municipal high-rise parking garage, or maybe they like the urine cascading down the stairs. Like maybe there's some beauty and majesty in that, but they piss. So and they all smell like piss. And when I was at the UK, and I don't know if we can find a picture of this, Ben, but Nick probably knows what I'm talking about. So
Soho Square, I know exactly where it is. Near Soho Square, they always put that. And do you know what? They put it there just at weekends and evenings. So it won't necessarily be there all day, around all week. They'll put it out going, there's going to be a bunch of drunk idiots. And
yes, it was out front of a strip club, I think, over there. And so, like, there's a couple things. One is we, on occasion, in a homeless situation, drop an outhouse, a box. But that accommodates one person, and it takes up, 22 square feet or whatever it is. This takes up half the square footage, will accommodate 3 people, with the conceit that you don't have a room to piss in. You just have to turn your back to society.
Is there something covering you? Like, is it like 3 feet?
No, it's just carved out.
Yeah.
Wow.
At least
it's like these bit plastic kind of, odd little things. It sounds like you should run for,
oh God! Your mouth.
Run for some kind of position. So
here's the thing. Look,
urinals.
We don't need the big porta potty, because if you gotta do number 2, if you gotta drop a load, that's on you. That can wait. You can do that at home.
You go find a hotel lobby.
Yeah, that's right. The urine is now.
Yes.
The number 2, you can wait. You can wait on that. So I thought,
we'll give out free diapers.
Yeah,
number 2.
No.
This was diabolical. It could accommodate 3 people.
Right.
The footprint on this thing was just a 4-foot circle, essentially, and it was carve outs. And yeah, I did probably talk to someone about it. Maybe the guy pissing next to me.
This is a great idea. This is
They could
awesome.
be doing this outside.
And they were like, oh, yeah, they take it away. They bring it in at night on the weekends when people show up and drink. It's an awesome
That's not a job
device.
you want, is it? The guy that delivers and removes the urinals.
I'd much rather deliver.
Yeah, I'm more They gotta crane them up onto a flatbed or something, and some of those things are sloshing around. But that is an example of this is a very efficient way to deal with this, and a problem solver. Oh, now we're looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you got one.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at one. Yeah, and your back's to society, but whatever.
That's one of those things I would use when you really have to go, not when you're pee shy, not when you're like, well, I better go now.
It's those little oddities. There's the whole thing about jaywalking as well, whereas the land of the free, but you got to have permission to cross the road. That always blew my.
Sure.
I actually remember being in Koreatown one time and running across the street quite late, one night drunk or whatever. And this cop went, shouted out his window just as the cop came over. He said, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" And I went, "Obviously not." and then the look on his face, I went, "I'm out of here." Just ran up into the crowd.
Well, you're not an idiot.
You'll be glad to know that I think in Los Angeles County, maybe in the state of
California state law.
California has abolished the jaywalking.
Yeah. Go to Koreatown, do whatever you want now.
Yeah.
Piss in the road as you're running across it.
It disproportionately affects black and brown people. So, but Whitey gets the jaywalk now too with impunity, and I kind of like the idea of finding black and brown people and explaining them to things I would like to do. Say this disproportionately affects you, and they will snap to action. That's how the legislator works here in California. So they would never get rid of jaywalking. I always hated that too. I got a jaywalking ticket in a crosswalk while the light was blinking once in Burbank many years ago. I've gotten many jaywalking tickets as well, and I always hated it too, because you should be able to decide for yourself whether it's safe or not. Although I will say with phones, I see people texting, staring at their phone, and just barely moving across thoroughfares.
I never do that. I always challenge people. If you ever see me do it, I'll give you. I'll pay you. I'll be.
Yeah.
You got me. Here's $20.
Swear jar, yeah.
I'll never,
I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson with that in London, because I did that, stepped on the road, and someone on a bike just zoomed past and snatched my phone.
The bikes.
Yeah, that happens a lot in London.
Oh yeah, it'll just
like just the push bikes.
The bikes are the silent killers of the road, especially the e-bikes, because the electric bikes, I just got back from Manhattan. These guys are hauling ass.
Uphill.
And they're not making any noise at all. And I guess Teslas and Bolts and Volts and, all the electric whatever. Yeah, cars and bikes are electric bikes, cars, everything's silent now. So
and then they got that unicycle thing that's like silent and people can sit on it and it goes and they're supposed to be in the bike lane, but then they're not, and you're just like...
Are they sitting on it or are they standing on it?
I've seen them do both.
You're like straddling it.
Yeah, kind of straddling. I saw like 30 of them at Griffith Park. It looked like Star Wars or something.
They'd all be friends. Yeah, they would all find each other.
So, Nick, The Offering is... I just watched the trailer, but it's a very well put together film, and it's very interesting in the genre that it's in. I've not seen that in the horror movie genre. I've not seen it in that setting before. You want to sort of walk our audience through it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's the story's about this guy Arthur, my character, who is grew up in a Hasidic Jewish community in Brooklyn. Left the community, has lived a secular life, married to a Gentile, and he's returning home to his father's mortuary. So it's like you said, the unique thing about it is it's this world which, when I was doing research for it, what I found was a lot of the kind of documentation of Orthodox Judaism or Hasidic Judaism is very voyeuristic, whether that's in a documentary or drama. Is kind of looking at it from a secular viewpoint, and I think therefore inevitably it's can be quite derisory in the same way that you look to any kind of religious fundamentalism and often you're just picking out the worst elements of it when you're analyzing it and saying here's how you can do it better from a Western perspective. And what I really loved about this script and the idea that the producers and the writer were trying to do was saying we can tell this story in this community and use the folklore of ancient Jewish texts to tell a horror story. But essentially the heart of it is a new way of telling the story, because it's about a family. It's about family relationships. It's about grief. The reason what prompted Art to leave was his mother's death. And while he needed a father, what his father offered him was religion. He just handed in the book and said, there you go, all the answers are in here. And that's not what Art needed. So he's returning home. There's, we all kind of, everybody can relate in some way to that feeling of being an outsider or, just trying to find yourself and your place in the world. And I love the fact that it's you get to know these characters just as people without it having this voyeuristic lens on a community, and therefore can be quite misunderstood.
It is called The Offering. It'll be in theaters and available on VOD, and then it's out January 13th. Nick, it was great speaking to you.
You too.
And I want you to give your fiancée my love.
I will do. She'll be very, very pleased to hear that. I appreciate the time.
Nick Blood, thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank guys.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you. Bye.
All right, let's take a quick break. Darren's going to hang out. We'll hit some news right after this.
In celebration of Jim Carolla's upcoming 92nd birthday, here's a list of 92 things Jim Carolla has never done. Number 4, sharpened a knife. Just one of 92 things Jim Carolla has never done. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
It's true. I don't know if he owned a knife. We had a pot with no handle on it.
He had to have owned a knife. Come on.
Yeah, you're right, because he would, when he was a bachelor, he would go out to Alpha Beta in North Hollywood and buy these steaks that were like $1.21 or something, like
the scrap meat,
cuts of meat, and then just fry them in a pan. No olive oil, no garlic, no, just
he didn't season it.
Just fry it in a pan and flap it on a plastic plate. By the way, still time to get tickets if you want to check out me and John Popper coming up January 20th and 21st.
That's this weekend, Dallas. So yeah, go and we're also just doing it even just if you just want to go to the Saturday night show. If you're local,
right?
Come check out Blues Travelers playing. There'll be some Q&A.
We'll all be there, doing podcasts there, and John's going to be covering all the hits. I'll be doing all the stand-up, and we'll do some Q&A. It's going to be great. He's a great guy. Oh, and he's doing stand-up too. So get ready for that.
No harmonica, I heard.
Yes.
right, for the stand-up.
No
Oh, no.
harp.
Yeah, it has to.
That's right. No net.
That's basically naked for him. Yeah.
What do you got,
Well,
Chris?
before we get to news, I had a question because when Nick's fiance said she would, when he said his fiance would listen under the covers secretly. When you were doing Loveline, did you was that in the back of your head like, oh, I could also be speaking to very young kids who are sneaking a peek at this show and I'm maybe molding their minds?
I never factored in anything else other than what I wanted to say because I knew it would screw me up, and I always had a mission, I guess, which is like, I enjoy hot dogs. I don't want to see how they're made because I would probably stop enjoying them if I knew what really one of those rendering plants or the horror show that went on there. I didn't. If there were cockroach legs in it, then so be it. But it wasn't hurting me, and I liked it. I want to continue to like it. And when I did radio and podcasting, I would never think about somebody listening, because how would you talk about a family member, or how would you talk about a friend, or how would you talk if you pictured that person listening? It would alter your conversation dramatically. And I've said the examples, like you and your bros your buddy go out for a few beers, and you're sitting in a booth, and then some couple sits in the booth next to you. All of a sudden, conversation altered big time. So
I put my tie on.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about the couple in the booth next to you who can hear your conversation, and now you've altered your conversation, or like you're talking about something with your buddy or your whomever, and maybe it's salacious, and maybe it's just technical or legal or something like that. Then you get into the back of the Uber and you kind of zip it until you get to the place where you can talk about it. I don't want that Uber driver. I don't want to think about them listening. So I never thought about, I couldn't think about the program director listening, the powers that be, the suits, family members, lovers. Like, I just had to talk, and that was all going to land, chips were going to fall as they may. I realized I started thinking about it, it would alter my speech.
Yeah. I think that ultimately led to your success then.
Probably.
All right, so let's talk about some stuff that happened last week at a Miami airport. Odell Beckham Jr. So actually it didn't happen last week. The video came out last week. This actually happened right after Thanksgiving. He went out and partied and then got on the American Airlines flight, first class, and they're trying to wake him up because his seatbelt isn't buckled. And they're not going to buckle it for him, right? The flight attendants or anything. So
well, I don't want to defend the man, but if there's anyone who was built for turbulence, it's Odell Beckham, because when you cross the middle in the NFL, that's turbulence coming at you. Free safety coming downhill. You know what I mean? Like, think about what being thrown out of your seat would be rather than being lit up by a DB.
Yeah.
He's built for turbulence.
Right. I know. I have to put my carry-on in that size, or that should work for humans too. Like,
right.
So they're trying to wake him up to put his seatbelt on because they're trying to take off, and he wakes up. He's a little out of it. He's rude. He doesn't know what's going on, and then everyone's just kind of getting all mad. And then basically, long story short, they get like some of the authorities involved, and then they have to deplane the plane because he's just not cooperating.
But I don't get it. They're landing.
No, they're about to take off.
Sorry.
They're about to take off. So now everyone's getting off the plane. This video is like 5 minutes long, but I'll just show you the end of it where where this passenger's like, hey, you should have got off the plane for us. Like, why didn't you get off the plane? Now, look, we all have to get off the plane.
Right.
And here's him talking back to this passenger, to the guy in red.
Ain't no way you could look at me. Ever.
Guys, just don't engage with them. Just don't engage.
You gonna wait 40 minutes, and I'm gonna be on a private plane home.
Good.
Yeah, get your fat ass. Yeah, I will. Get your ass off the plane for a second. Yeah, I bet. Enjoy the cheese board on the way home. Get your ugly ass. Shit, don't mean nothing to me, bro.
And he did take a private plane.
He's the biggest douchebag of all fucking time. Wow. I mean, they're people who've killed their family who I would like more than this guy.
Yeah.
You know what drives me nuts? What drives me nuts is when you are the person that instigates somebody. That's the situation. You instigate the situation. You guys have all had this in your personal lives. We've all seen it professionally. It's like you instigated this thing, and then halfway into the argument, they're pissed off at you, and it's like, I didn't do any of this. I'm trying to fix this thing that you started. It's like, I stole your car and then I crashed it, and now I'm going to sue you because you got bald tires on that car. It's like, you stole my car. Can we not lose track of how this began? You wouldn't put your fucking seatbelt on. There's another part of that clip, or there's another thing I saw on TMZ, at least, like someone's going, could you just get off the plane?
Yeah.
So, what it is the cop or the sheriff is saying to him, you can either get off now and let everyone stay, but you're getting off, or you can wait for everyone to leave, but you're getting off the plane anyway.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll wait for everyone to leave.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's
what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And then he's like, then someone has the temerity to ask His Highness, could you just get off the plane so we don't have to fucking get off the plane? He's like, fuck you, fatty.
No, right before that video, too, he's like, I would never get off the plane for you. Just heads up, I would never get off the plane for you. Yeah, so.
He needs to be,
he needs to be fucking banished to Devil's Island.
Imagine if he was your teammate now. There's so much going on. So
that is the opposite of a good teammate right there.
So his attorney, he said, look, Beckham had just simply fallen asleep and a flight attendant blew the situation out of proportion. And then OBJ...
The reason I thought he was landing is because I figured he had a couple of pops on the plane, maybe popped an Ambien or something. Right. Now they're going into Miami 5 hours later, and he's passed out. This is getting on the plane?
This is getting on the plane, and so
how far into REM can you get when all the bells and buzzers and people are walking around and all the announcers? Like, how far out can you get that I can't jostle you on the shoulder and tell you to put the belt on?
Yeah, I mean, he did mention that he went out the night before and he went pretty hard, like he raged pretty hard. It. So that there's that. But then he also said he learned a lesson from this whole incident. Put my seatbelt on before you fall asleep.
Exactly.
It's just the part where I also hate these people too, because I've had a few of these where you go, look, you can either walk out of here right now, or I can call a few of my sheriff buddies and we can just tackle you down to the ground and put zip ties on you and drag you out of here. And they go get them.
Some people just want to dig their heels in.
Well, okay, it's either going to be you get up and walk out, or we're going to fucking smash you like that stupid doctor on the airplane a few years ago that wouldn't leave Asian guy.
Yeah.
Like this is going to happen because these guys have to fill out a report, and this isn't a country road in the 50s where the guy goes, okay, you slip in $20. He's like, I guess I could look the other. This is all chronicled. It's a report. You entered the plane. They need all this shit. You can't be cool guy cop who goes, you know what? Let's just let this one. No, you have to get off the plane. Now, you could just get up and do it, or you could make everyone get off this plane. And somehow Odell Beckham Jr. is angry at the other people on the plane, that's the part I'm in love with.
He is grumpy.
It'd be really cool if he apologized to that guy and bought him a cheeseburger and did a commercial or something and I was rude and I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would go viral if they did that.
He turned around.
Have a beer summit.
Yeah. Well, and also
a burger summit. Yeah.
What's going on with Miami Airport anyway? Right? Is there every video I see coming out of Miami Airport are brawls, or here, I have this video of this lady who, it was over the holiday break. She starts just tearing apart the kiosk because her two kids decided to go to the bathroom and they didn't tell her, and she demanded that they find her kids. So here, watch this. Very upset.
Oh no!
Spoiler alert: she was arrested.
She's a diminutive Jewish woman. No, wait a minute. Oh, I got that wrong.
Yeah.
She's a large woman of faith.
She's a mom, Adam, and she wants to know where her kids are.
Why is she doing all that?
She's pulling.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, can I say this?
It's a tantrum.
A lot of ladies chucking furniture at Waffle Houses, chucking chairs at people, chucking phones, chucking computers. You throw a fucking credit card reader at somebody's head from 6 feet away, you can fuck them.
Yeah.
Up. I know you're having a tantrum, but you're just grabbing electronics and just chucking them out and about. Gonna fuck people up.
Yeah, it's assault.
Yes.
These are actual weapons now. You're turning all this stuff like at Waffle House when you see that lady got that chair thrown at her. She just caught it.
Yeah.
And threw it down.
Spun it around. She was awesome.
Yeah. So she got arrested. It's all right.
All right. I'll tell you what's happening is, as I've always said, women fighting is up 7,000%. There was no women fighting when I was a kid. Now
they didn't have
women
M&Ms
fighting.
back then.
That's right. Now they got the chick M&Ms and they're empowered. They're up. So if you said half the population did not engage in physical fights when I was a kid, and now they're throwing down, well, then fighting overall would have to go up if half the population did no fighting, and now half that population is doing the lion's share of the actual tantrums and the fightings and the chair throwing. That's why it's up. They were dormant. Women didn't throw chairs. They didn't throw equipment. They didn't slug it out. There was none. There was none. We had to invent sports like mud wrestling and roller derby to simulate women fighting because we liked it.
System.
Yeah, but these were all made up sports.
Wet T-shirt contests.
It just had women fighting. Yes, it's not a regulated actual sport. Mud wrestling, even roller derby. We made women's wrestling back in the day. It was all just simulation women's fights. Now it's on.
Yeah. Also, just since we're talking about airplanes, we never talked about this yet. There's a guy in Alabama who got sucked into a jet engine and died, like a ramp worker.
No.
Do you hear about that? Yeah.
No.
So it was American Airlines. It was one of those small planes, E-175, like one of those Eagle planes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was just. It looked like somebody commented that he was on the other side, not on the side of the bag doors. So his guess was he went to chalk the plane and wasn't paying attention, and the engine was still running. And his coworker saw it, but just sucked into a jet engine.
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah, there's no answer for sucked into a jet engine other than, oh man, that sucks for him. There's no real. There's a lot of other things attached to a lot of other activities, but this one just sucks for him. Now they could. I'm going to venture this, or you guys tell me. All right. So you think about Captain Sully, Bird Strike, Miracle on the Hudson. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, it gets sucked in. It's like they suck in an insane volume of cubic feet of air per second, whatever, and it's powerful. Okay, and then this guy getting sucked in, and in a safety-oriented world, all that jet engine is like a huge, Bassomatic chopper that's just there, and there's no world where there's a screen or a bar or a safety bar or anything, and then so you would go. Well, if bird strikes are a big deal, getting sucked into the engines and flaming out, kind of surprised it doesn't happen more, really, if you think about it. Then why don't we put some sort of grid or screen or something in the opening of the jet engine that would prevent a goose from going into it? Or
these are our top, humanity's top engineers created this machine, and we still haven't figured out the bird strikes
or a baggage handler from getting sucked in. Shouldn't we? And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Because I race cars, and the cars have open trumpets. They don't have... Your family car has a big air filter and a big metal box. Race cars are open. You'll see just open pipes, open trumpets to take in the air into the carburetor. Side draft, down draft, whatever it is. I once on one of my race cars took a fine, heat-proof, stainless steel screen, just a fine mesh screen, and I wired it over all the openings for the trumpets, because if a rock or gravel or dirt gets sucked in there, it'll fuck the engine up. So I did that, and then I got down to the racetrack, and some guy knew what he was talking about. It's like, you just cut down about 33% of your volume of air that goes in there. And I go, but it's screened. Yeah. It's just like you see right through it. And he's like, you cut down the volume. You can't run that way. Or you can, but you're not going to run as fast.
Place.
And I was like, But it's just mesh. It's just like fine mesh screen. It's like, yeah, but think about it. You're covering this volume of this area with a certain percentage of whatever. And I think that's what it is with jet engines. They
need every bit.
They can't figure. It'll make them run 20. If it makes them run 8% less efficiently, then everyone's ticket's going to be $30 more or whatever it is. They just can't. The range on the plane would go down 10% or whatever that is. I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, they do it. Ben, I don't know. There must be an article or something out there. I cannot be the first person to go, how come these huge openings, these orifices fly at 400 miles an hour, sucking birds, and by the way, anything gets sucked in, shit blows up. I think the Concorde's last run, the supersonic French plane, the last run of that plane, or close to the last run, is because, Ben, you got to look this one up too now. Concorde's taken off out of Europe, piece of debris on the runway, tire hits it of the Concorde, blows out, and I think got sucked into the jet engine. As they're taking off. The jet engine is flaming out, and boom, right into the forest. There's film of it, I think, sadly. So the reason there's no screen in front of those things is I think it would cut down on volume by X amount of percent, and that's why they won't do it.
Your Chopperoo have a screen?
It came with a governor, and I took it off, man. It had a governor on the carb. It had a catalytic converter. I sawed that shit. I went with an open pipe. All right, one more.
Well, here's something that everyone, for some reason, has been talking about. It's kind of like the latest political culture war, and it's the gas stove. I'm sure you guys have been seeing this. So there's a new study that's saying that gas stoves are now a hidden hazard, and this is the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission saying like it could cause cancer. And they say let's childhood asthma. I think that's what it is. Indoor pollution, childhood asthma.
You fucking pussy kids and your fucking asthma. That's the rule. No one can do anything anymore because childhood asthma. All stoves were gas when I was a kid. Nobody had asthma. Now everyone's fat and has asthma, and they're using a microwave.
Yeah.
Fucking riddle me that, scientists. Fat little pussies with your asthma.
Yeah.
It's the reason I got to stop frying up my steaks.
Everybody was smoking, too, when we were growing up. Like, it was everywhere. Like, windows.
They lived.
In restaurants, just smoking everywhere. And
you're dealing with insane idiots. One of these days will find me arguing with the mayor of Calabasas from the radio days, kind of as a Gavin Newsom argument. And he wanted to outlaw smoking in parks. Smoking in parks. And I said, who the hell cares? And he explained that Christopher Reeve's wife died from secondhand smoke.
Gotcha.
Not that Superman smoked, but that she worked in a cabaret for like 3 years in her 20s and died of secondhand smoke because they allowed smoking in there. And I said, then everyone would be dead if they allowed
Did you have coworkers?
So if they all perish as well? And then this fucking idiot who was an attorney who was running for mayor, he said childhood asthma is up, 66%. And I said, yeah, but smoking is down 66%. So how do you make that correlation? And he's like, because childhood asthma is up. And I'm like, if secondhand smoke causes childhood asthma, then why is smoking down 50% and asthma's up 50%? He couldn't. But we would argue a little bit more, and then he would trot out the stat again, ready to go. Childhood asthma is up. Everyone's a fucking idiot. They don't know how to argue. They make insane statements, and then they can't back it up at all. Yeah. Now, the real study, if you want to know how it really works, is the stuff that you're inhaling is coming from your pan. So that could either be from an electric source or a gas source. When you're frying up halibut.
Yeah, when your dad's cooking his steak.
When my dad's making his bone-dry steak with not even salt or pepper on it, what I'm breathing is coming from the pan and the steak. That's what and that stuff is something. So what they do, because they're cooking the numbers and they're trying to outlaw more shit because they want to make more rules because they love more control and they hate the word gas. What they're doing is they're putting what's in the pan and adding it to the gas, and now they're going, see? And it's like, yeah, but the steak would be in the pan if it was an electric stove or not. Was I right with that Concorde thing, Ben?
Oh, here's the video. We have the video here. The Concorde crash.
Yeah.
From start to finish. This is an incredible plane.
It is an incredible plane. Yeah, one of the engines flamed out on takeoff. Right. But, Ben, is the story because debris got sucked into the opening of the jet?
What a crazy chain of events of that. Like, your own part was sucked in through the jet engine.
I'm pretty sure it was a part, could have been a tire or whatever. All right, we don't have to watch it. It's sad. Everyone goes into the forest and dies. But,
thank you.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
It ran over a piece of debris during takeoff.
Mm-hmm.
But do we know what the debris was?
And did it blow a tire out, or was it just the debris that got sucked in? Well, look,
it was a strip of metal on the runway.
So that got sucked into
Hey, you're not checking for debris on these runways. Come on.
You got to do that.
Yeah, but now if the Concorde had the catch screen, then the piece of debris,
just ricocheted off.
Yeah, but then we get to New York slower.
I am sure that's why there is in a world.
Call Alonzo Bowden. Get him on.
In a world festooned with safety measures, the idea that would still just be an open blade means there's a reason why they didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had to have thought of this because this is such a big problem.
Ben, they found any information? Oh, you got something. Oh,
yeah.
He's talking to Gary.
Yeah,
he's frustrated.
It's okay.
We'll find if there is some study. I can't be the first. There's no way I made up putting a screen in front of a jet engine.
That guy should have never stood there, though. He was in front of it. He should have, don't ever do that. That's the danger zone.
That's rule number one, yeah.
Rail. Don't go there.
That's like getting hit with the pyrotechnics at a concert or something. Like, there are no-go zones. Like, do not stand there.
All right, let's bring it home because, we got something to get to. We got an answer.
The aircraft ran over debris on the runway, causing a tire to blow up.
What?
Disintegrate.
Oh,
that's exactly as I recalled it. That's why I kept saying debris. Yeah. I don't know my kid's middle name, but I do know aeronautical disasters when I see them. It ran over debris. It blew out a tire, and the tire got sucked in. But again, you guys can tweet me, but they would put screens if they could. I mean, because that's a real thing. I mean, your tire could blow out and get sucked into the inlet of the jet.
Yeah, that seems like something that they should be able to prevent. That should have been designed. It blows my mind.
All right. All right. Go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows. We'll see you in Dallas this weekend with John Popper.
Yes.
Pocket Party is the name of the podcast, Darren Carter's podcast. And you can check him out on youtube.com/Darren Carter as well. Nick Blood, The Offering, is out on the 13th, so on VOD and in theaters as well. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Darren Carter. Nick Blood, Chris Maxbata saying mahalo.